Welcome to Pinoy Ghost Files. We are on our case number 16. Tonight, we have 10 terrifying ghost stories that will send shivers down your spine. From eerie encounters to unexplained phenomena, each tale will draw you deeper into the unknown. So sit back, relax, and prepare for a chilling ride through the supernatural. Let's dive in. These stories were submitted last year in January 2015 from the Spookify Facebook page. Story number 1. Title: Up. December 27th, 2014, not from UST. There was a convention happening on December 28th, and since our ticket was VIP, my boyfriend and I planned to camp out around the vicinity of the event hall. We arrived at 8 p.m. on December 27th, and there were already 2 fangirls in line. It was still quite early, so we decided to walk around. We returned around 10 p.m. and talked to the 2 fangirls who had also arrived early. A little later, around 11 p.m., one of our friends arrived. We were still hanging out outside. Around 3 a.m., my boyfriend said he saw something. I don't know what it was. He didn't want to say, and I thought he was just scaring me. We were still sitting there, facing a huge open space that was a large parking lot. There was a single car parked there. I was staring off into the distance when suddenly I saw an old man walking beside the car in the parking lot. He was old, using a cane, and walking very slowly. I was surprised because why would someone be wandering around at that hour? I tapped my boyfriend and told him to look. I said there was an old man over there. When I pointed it out, he disappeared. It was around 3:50 a.m., and I described what I saw to him, and he said he saw the same old man walking around the parking lot. There was also something in the arena above, but he said not to look because it might scare me even more. It was just really weird. Story submitted by Soyu. Title: Beautiful Girl, Wherever You Are. Hello, not from UST, but I just want to share my handsome teacher's story. Ha ha ha. So, last December 2014, during our field trip, we gathered as his students. He was our advisor, and he started sharing a story. He suddenly asked a question, and I returned the question to him. Here it is. When he was still young, he was from Quezon. He was hanging out by their window one morning when a beautiful woman passed by. She had a straight nose, very long hair, old-fashioned clothes, fair skin like Sam Pinto, that kind of look. She looked Spanish, very attractive. He waved at her, and the woman smiled back. My teacher was wowed and felt like he had a lucky encounter. He told his cousin about it. NV. Dude, look, you're outdone again. She smiled at me. She's so beautiful. Cousin, huh? She was walking so fast, I didn't see her. Oh, right, but I'm going to find her. So, my teacher started asking around about where she might be from. His aunt didn't know. He followed the directions and found out she lived close to his house. When he got to the girl's house, he knocked and knocked, but no one answered or peeked out. No one came out. So my teacher just opened the door and went inside. There was no one there. He left quickly. He asked his aunt again and described what he saw and where the house was. His aunt said that long ago, during the time of war, there were siblings who lived there. One general had hidden his sibling to keep her safe. So the beautiful woman was like a prisoner in that house and had rotted away. Her brother died in the war. So my teacher was shocked. He thought he was going to have a lucky encounter. Here's the translation for the next stories. Story number 3. Tandong. I'm not from UST. I'm from this resort campus in Cavite. But I hope this gets posted. This happened when I was in 4th year high school in 2011. We had a retreat at a campsite in Cavite. My parents raised me not to be afraid of ghosts or anything like that, so I wasn't really scared. But when this happened to me, it changed my whole perspective on ghosts. It was already night, but I'm not sure what time it was. I didn't have a phone or a watch. My roommates were already asleep. My bed was on top, as it was a bunk bed, and the head of my bed was by the window. I really couldn't sleep, so I just lay there thinking. The campsite had a lights-out policy for the rooms at night, so the only light was from outside the rooms, making the hallway visible. I was deep in thought and couldn't sleep. I might have been adjusting to the new environment. It was also very cold. I'm sensitive to the cold, and I need to pee easily. Then I felt something cold on my feet. I remember the ceiling fan near my feet was off, but it felt like there was a cold breeze. I tucked my feet under the blanket and covered myself. I eventually fell asleep after a long time of thinking. In the middle of my sleep, I suddenly woke up needing to pee. I went to the bathroom, and when I reached for the light switch, I touched something cold and somewhat rough, like an old person's hand. I was startled and quickly pulled my hand away. I thought it might just be a rough surface, but it wasn't. It felt like something was protruding. I was scared, but turned on the light anyway. I looked in the mirror and saw that I had gone pale. I finished peeing, and while waiting, I watched the water dripping from the faucet. Then I looked down at my feet. Damn, there were feet under my feet. Story submitted by Taco. Story number 4. Title Overtime. I'm not from UST, and I'm not in college yet, XD. This story is long, so if you're feeling lazy to read, it's up to you, XD. Last year, I was in grade 7, and we had a half day. We had afternoon classes, and were supposed to leave at 6:30 p.m. But at that time, I think it was Teacher's Day or something, so we were done by 5 p.m. All my classmates went home, leaving only 8 of us. We formed a circle because one of my classmates was still working on a pop-up for AP. It was an ordinary setup, sitting in a circle, chatting, listening to music. Around 5:30 p.m., 4 of my classmates left, so only 4 of us were left, and we were all girls. When my classmate finished her project around 6 p.m., it was already dark. I went out to the corridor and looked at the 2 rooms on the left side. The setup was, our room was on the right, and as you went down the corridor, you'd see a staircase. If you continued down the corridor, you'd see 2 grade 8 ESEP rooms. When I looked, it seemed normal, but a little while later, my classmates came out. We turned off the 4 lights in the room and went down with only our cell phones for light. When we got outside the building, there was no one around, and our building was quite far from the gate. As we walked about 15 steps away, we stopped because we realized the project didn't have a name yet. While my classmate was writing, another classmate looked back at our room. Non-verbatim. Classmate 1. Hey, look at the room. The 2 lights in front are on. Me, huh? You turned them off, right? Classmate 2. Yes. That's why I ran out, because I turned off all the lights. Classmate, let's go. You might see something else. We ran to the gate because it was dark, and we had to pass 4 more buildings. We told the guard what happened, and he said there really were such occurrences in our building. We went home, and as we walked past the back of the school and looked at the room, all the lights were on. I thought that was the end of it, but there was more. A few days after that, I told my classmates about it. On that same day, in the same building, same room, something happened again. At 7 p.m., we were still talking because our Filipino clearance was a role play. My friends invited me to go ghost hunting, but I said to wait because we were still practicing. A little later, 3 of my friends went into the room, and one of them started crying. We approached her, and she told us what happened. Non-verbatim again. Me, what happened? Friend 1, there was a sound in the room. Then they explained that it sounded like a chair. Ours were metal with wooden armrests, fell, and when they looked into one room, the sound happened 3 times. We went down the building because my friend was crying. When we were down, I looked at the room where the sound came from and saw a shadow hunched over in the corridor, facing me. I hid behind one of my classmates, trembling. This year, we had full-day classes. We moved to a building near the gate. We stayed late for jingle and rap and science. At 6:30 p.m., we were still in the room, having a snack, and since no one wanted to behave, I turned off the light and yelled at them. It was dark after all. I turned it off and on again, and while I was alone at the back where the switch was, my classmate with the third eye approached me and said, non-verbatim, again, she, I saw a floating white woman near you when you turned off the light. That's why I've been watching you. I was stunned and ran to the front while hugging one of my classmates. Story number 5, title Ringtone. I'm not from UST, but I want to share my story. After watching the Japanese version of One Missed Call, I liked its ringtone. It was scary but cute to listen to. I set it as my message alert tone on my phone. My parents and sibling even joined in on the creepiness. So here's the story. I was still on the computer around 2 a.m. playing Tetris Battle. Suddenly, the One Missed Call ringtone went off. It meant I had received a text. I was a bit scared, so I just turned off my phone. At 3 a.m., while I was still playing, the one missed call ringtone went off again. I was confused because my phone was turned off. I put my face close to the computer, but the sound wasn't coming from there. It wasn't coming from my phone either. Damn it. I was getting anxious, so I turned off the computer and covered myself with a blanket. I decided to change my message alert tone. I didn't want to use it anymore. Story number 6. Title: Victims. Hey guys. Not from UST. Just want to share my story. This happened almost 4 years ago. After graduating from elementary school, we moved to the city because my aunt built a house there, and I was going to start high school in the city. I had ghost experiences before, but this was the creepiest for me. We had 3 bedrooms on the second floor, and us kids stayed in the biggest room since there were 5 of us. The room had 3 windows. Ever since we moved in, I had a different feeling about the house. One night, I woke up. I always sleep on the side of the bed because I'm comfortable there. It just so happened that next to the bed was a full-length mirror, and from my position, you could see the middle window. So, I woke up and happened to look at the mirror and saw a silhouette of a girl holding a child. I was puzzled because we didn't have any babies in the family, so I looked directly at the window, and they were still there. They were facing away from me and just looking out the window. I prayed for them to go away, and eventually, they did. The next day, I told everyone in the house what I saw. Everyone was surprised, except for our housemaid, who was also the caretaker before we moved in. She said that when the house was being built, they had found a bone in the lot where the house was built, and we also learned that there was a rape victim killed on the lot we bought. This house still haunts me. There are still whistles every night. Story submitted by Fourth Seven. Title: PST Anyang Haha Lol. Not from UST, actually, just a 4th-year student, and hopefully, this will be posted. I've had many spooky experiences, even though I'm only 4. When I was younger, I experienced things 3 times, but I wasn't too scared, just a bit. But that's not what I want to share. In 2013, my dad and 2 of my siblings were assigned to be the housekeepers at my grandfather's house, since they were in America, and their maid went back to the province, along with her child. So at first, everything was good at the house. Nice living, cable channels, and food, of course. One night, after I came home from school, I took a shower and went to the mall to buy something for a Filipino project. My brother was the only one left at home. When I came back, my brother told me, "Damn, did you know that while I was watching TV, someone suddenly made a PST sound at me, so I stayed outside until Dad came home, luckily." I was a bit worried, as it was his second time experiencing this, the first being at our actual house. So I took a shower and was about to change in the other room. Just as I was about to put on my shorts, I heard a PST sound. I lifted my shorts and went to my brother to tell him what happened. He acted fine. I thought that was it, but it wasn't. Sometimes I would hear the PST sound when I was about to sleep, and so on. Even my youngest sibling experienced it, but thankfully it stopped. I thought it was only in movies, but it turns out it's real too. Story submitted by Kai. Story number 8. Title: Masamang Bangungat. January 7, 2015, 7:05 p.m. I'm from Pateros, and I hope my story gets posted even though I'm not from UST, because I'd like to ask for advice on what I'm experiencing. It started when I was in grade 6. I often experience not being able to move but being awake and with my eyes slightly open. This is what they call sleep paralysis. At first, it was just simple experiences, but over time, it got worse and worse. I could initially wake myself up, but as time went on, I started to feel like electricity was flowing through my body, and when I woke up, I was drenched in sweat. Sometimes it felt like I was on a rapid slide, as if my soul wanted to separate from my body. I also heard a loud male voice during these episodes of sleep paralysis. But through prayer, I would wake up. That's what I can say is one of the weirdest feelings I've ever had. Story submitted by Leo. Story number 9. Title: Quiet Please. Hello, I'm not from UST, but I want to share my first and second, hopefully last, encounters with spirits. I love horror stories, especially movies, because I had never experienced anything scary in real life. So, I was quite shocked when I proved that spirits are real. This happened when I was in 4th year high school, at a friend's house. Our whole class was preparing for a speech choir, and two of our classmates were neighbors. All our classmates who were with us that day were at classmate 1's house, while I was hanging out at classmate 2's house. So it was just the two of us in their house. It was around 6 to 7 p.m. I'm quite talkative, so maybe that's why this happened. I was just talking away. We were in their living room, and I was next to the door. I was aware that there might be spirits there, but I felt at ease because the door was open, and I could easily run out if needed. Next to me, close to the door, was a mirror, and then a hallway leading to the kitchen and bathroom, with stairs. So, I kept talking, and my voice was the only sound in the house, except for the reactions of my companion. However, someone else reacted. We heard a sound like something jumping down the stairs. I stopped and looked at my companion. He told me not to mind it. I couldn't say it was just my imagination, because he heard it too. But as he said, I ignored it and continued talking. Then we heard the sound of the bathroom light switch clicking, but the light didn't turn on. I was getting nervous. I looked at my companion again, and he heard it too, but just smiled. Again, I continued talking, knowing that if there was one more occurrence, I would run out of the house. And then, while I was talking, we heard another noise like slippers scratching beside me, between the mirror and where I was sitting. My companion ran out of the house, and in my fear of being left behind, I grabbed his clothes. Why did he leave me? Thankfully, we managed to get out alive. They said it might just have been noise that bothered me. I didn't return to that house to apologize, but I wasn't followed. Last year, when my classmate had a birthday, he invited me and some of our old classmates. There were 6 of us, and we stayed overnight at their new house, which was far from the old one where we had our experience. We didn't get any sleep. 2 of our friends slept, and 4 of us stayed awake in one bed. Everyone was on the side by the wall, and I was lying on the other side, with a small space in a plastic cabinet, and on the other side of the cabinet were his parents who were already asleep. Around 3 a.m., while I was telling a funny story, and everyone was busy laughing, I stopped because I heard laughter on my left side, in the space next to me, but the voice sounded like it was floating a bit higher. I knew it wasn't any of my friends' voices. So, out of fear, I slowly sat up and leaned against the wall. I told them about it, and they just smiled at me. We continued chatting until one of us fell asleep, and at 5 a.m., when things were quiet and we were running out of stories, I heard 3 knocks on the plastic cabinet. I wondered how that happened when the friend closest to the cabinet was asleep, and the parents were still deeply asleep on the other side. In my confusion, I asked my friend who owned the house if he had heard it. He looked at his watch and said, "Oh my gosh, it's 5 o'clock." I thought maybe he thought I was just imagining things, but he said he heard it too. He said that there were indeed spirits in the house, and that the house hadn't been blessed yet, if I remember correctly. I just hope they don't harm anyone who's staying there. Story submitted by Kai. Story number 10. Title, Scaredy Cat. This happened about 2 years ago in Antipolo, where my grandmother and 3 cousins live. We went swimming with my cousins and my brother's friends, but we got bored, so we decided to go home. There are 2 ways to get to their place, but one of them has dogs, so we had no choice but to take the other route, which is quite creepy. That part of the road and my grandmother's house are in an area with very few houses, just a lot of grass. As we were heading home, we were even more scared because it was just the 2 of us walking that long path. When we were in the middle of it, I wanted to run, but my cousin told me not to because she was scared too, so I didn't run and just endured it. I was so frightened that I ended up peeing my shorts, but it was okay since I was wet from swimming anyway. Thank God we got home safely. After we showered, my cousin told me that the village guard said there was a ghost that appears on that path we took, a woman and a child who died there a long time ago. So I told my cousin that I'd never go that way again. I'd rather risk being bitten by dogs. Story from P-Make. That wraps up tonight's Ghostly Tales. I hope you enjoyed these stories. If you have your own experiences or any thoughts about the tales shared, feel free to comment or send a message. Until next time, stay safe and be wary of what might be lurking in the shadows.